In this video, we're going to show you how to use the Process Hub. To get to the Process Hub, go to the App button at the top left and select Process Hub. The Process Hub can be used for a wide range of activities. To start with, we're just going to show you how to build a simple process. On the left drawer, you'll see a little plus button. If you click this button here, or the top right blue button, you will start creating a new process. When you start, it will always pop up with this box, letting you know that you are about to start building the process. Simply click Start. We're now going to start building our first step. So to start with, name your step. Let's say we're working on an NCR process. You might name the first step Information. You can then use the fields to build and capture the information that you would like. There are other options as well, but to start with, we're just going to focus on a few simple fields. For example, you might ask the person for some product details, and you want this information in the format of some text. You can then ask them to list how many they've seen a problem with, and pick the type number. As you can see, there are a wide range of different field types that can be used. You can create drop boxes, tick boxes, statuses. You can have a body map if you're doing something for health and safety. We also have additional options down here that have a bit more logic behind them. For example, a conditional field allows you to pick between different options that open up further options for a more advanced process. The action group also allows you to create actions that can then be linked to other places in the application. Now that we've talked about and added a few fields, we come to the second part of the step, which is deciding how you want it to be sent on. For example, you have a few options. You can automatically start the next step as the same person, or you can pick to automatically send it to a specific user or group. This can vary depending on the type of process that you're doing, but for this example, we'll stick with sending it on as the same person. If you were to not pick either of these options, when you move to the second step, it will ask the user to pick someone they would like to send it to. We also have some other options. You can add notifications that will be sent to users that you pick when the step is started or completed. You can also add actions that can be triggered by the step's completion or start. And if you add an approval, it will ask you to pick someone or a group of people that have to approve the details within the step before it can be moved on to the second stage. Let's save this step and move on to the next one. So now you can start to build your process. For this example, we're going to add a decision step. You click the decision button in the top right of the process. This will add a default box option. It will give you the decision step and then two options immediately from it. To connect the information step to the decision step, you simply pick the little marker at the bottom and drag it in order to connect it to the second stage. This is how you build any part of the process, by clicking the points and connecting them to the next step you want it to go to. You can also change the names of the steps on this view by highlighting over the words and typing something else in. To start adding more information to the next steps, simply double tap on one of the boxes. For a decision step, you have some options that look slightly different to a normal step. In the first box, it will give you the options section. This shows you the different items that users can pick that will change the route of the process. For example, we have option 1 and no. Each option comes with a description and a colour. For example, option 1 might be captioned urgent work required, whereas option no may be captioned no issues. We can then change the colours of each of these buttons. We can still add fields the same way we can in a normal step. For example, in this one, we might add a new field, call this information, and decide to add a drop-down box. This will then ask the user to fill out this field at the same time as picking the next step option. When you have multiple options, or routes we call them, you can then decide who gets each step. For example, if you click automatically send option on, you can pick a user per step. This allows you to choose who would be sent to the next stage. For this example, again, we will use the same person who is working on the process currently by clicking active user should continue on both options and saving this to continue to the next steps. So now we can go in and edit each of our final steps. By double tapping on option 2, we can then mark this to be a final step. This means that the process knows this is the last step of the process. If you then click to add a field, we can ask for final comments by filling out the field title and then picking a text area. We then can pick to save the process. you'll see the colour changes to notify you that this is an ending step. If we pick option no, we can then change this one to be an end step. An end step is slightly different to a final step. A final step allows you to pick fields that you'd like to be filled out, whereas an end step triggers an immediate action to happen automatically. For example, if we want to click the end step option, we can then select to complete a process or to cancel the process. For this one, we will click to complete the process automatically and save. So just in review, we have step 1, where we're asking the user to fill out some information. They will then complete this and immediately start the second step. For the second step, they will be asked to pick from the drop-down box, and they will then have 2 options that they can pick from as coloured buttons. If they pick urgent work required, it will take them to option 1 and ask them for final comments. If they were to pick no issues, it goes to an end step, which automatically completes the process. Some other small things to note would be that on each step, you can add step time. This allows you to create due dates per step. So a step might be started and we might need it to be completed within 3 days. We can also add some other things like mandatory fields. If you were to click the More button, you can then click Make Required. When you see this red star, it will ensure that the users have to fill out the field that you've selected it on. Let's save this step. To finish this, we can now name the process. Let's call this one example 1. We can go across to the top right and click Save. It will ask you what number the entries should start from. For example, if you had a process that was already existing in your business, it might be on entry 10,000. So you may want to pick that the process starts from a much higher number. If not, you can just leave it as 1, and each entry that you raise will start from the number 1. As soon as you click Save, it will notify you that your process has some setting options. Click Got It to carry on. Now let's go back to the main process and start another entry. Let's fill out our product details again. Pick the number of issues. Click Complete Step. This time we will pick the Urgent Work Required option. We can now see that it opens another step for me and asks me to fill in the final comments. If I scroll back to the top and click the flowchart view, you can see that step 1 and 2 have been completed, and blue indicates that this is the step that we are currently on. If I click back, scroll to the bottom, and now complete the step, the process is complete. If you would like to change the process, you have to go to the Versions button in the top left. You then have 2 options. You can up-issue the process, which triggers an up-issue which allows you to change the process steps, or you can turn on test mode. Test mode enables you to keep making changes and then release the process as a new version after multiple iterations. This is really good for when you're first starting to build a process and you want to test it and get feedback, make improvements, and then release it as one whole version. So let's turn test mode on. You can now see the process is in test mode. You can click to up issue. This now allows me to edit the process steps. For example, I might want to click on step 1 and add an additional field. Let's pick to add a tick box field. And save it. We can now click Save on this process. You'll see the process has now been marked with a test tag. If we go into the versions and click the drop-down, you can see that there is a mini iteration of this version, which is because we are on test mode. I can now click to fill this process out to see how it looks, and we have our new option. I must add the product details in. I can complete the step. I can then scroll down and go to no issues. You will then see that this entry has also been marked with the test chip. That's because often you might be raising lots of entries in order to test your new process improvements. When you have finished making changes, simply go back to the Versions button and click End Test Mode. It will then ask you if you would like to delete all test entries. If I leave this as ticked and click Done, you'll see it has removed my test entry. The version is now version 2. Another important thing with processes is the settings. Click Settings in the top left button. Within here we have access controls, editing controls, up-issue controls of processes. We also have view options for the table found on the process page. We can link it to portals, add plan time for the whole process, and also use reference fields. I will pick reference fields and show you because this is quite a handy feature to know how to use. A reference field is a field that will then show on the main table and in process tasks. For example, if I click to add product details and the decision option, I can then display these in my tasks. Click Done, then click Done on the main process setting box. You then need to refresh the page and you will see the new columns have been added to your completed table. You can change the position of these columns by dragging them across so that you can format the table to have the right information that you need. You can also hide columns by clicking the menu button, manage columns, and turn columns on or off that you do or do not want to see. You can now go to the home page of Process Hub. This is where you will see the process that you have just built. The process page orders the business processes by the ones that you have most recently used. So in order to start this process, you click the process bar and then click Start Process in the top right. There are other ways to start a process. For example, you can add a process start shortcut button to home pages or dashboards. You can also have actions within other processes or forms that will trigger a process. But we will cover this in another video. I hope you've enjoyed seeing how to build a simple process.